Okay, we're going to start out talking about the barriers and supports from the groups, the intervention we did, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on how we came to doing the intervention we came to. We first conducted focus groups. We conducted four focus groups with participants ranging from 7 to 10 people per focus groups. It was predominantly female. From the focus groups, Kathleen Murphy and Mike West analyzed the data, and they came up with 4 themes: means of obtaining research information, personal knowledge of research and evidence-based practices, research information of value to the recipient, and the research gaps and barriers to utilization. Now, I forgot to tell you what type of participants we had, and these were the consumers. These were people with disabilities. And for the first theme, as I was reading and understanding this research, we came up with they obtained research information from rehab counselors and other rehab professionals, family and friends, and other people with disabilities. Other people with disabilities was really important to them. And they also went to places like national and state organizations, and such as the National Brain Injury Association. And they liked social media. They really liked LinkedIn. But when they were looking for information, they were looking for job posts. They were trying to find people who could give them a way to find a job. It was not necessarily understanding how about applying and the interview process and what the other skills they needed to obtain the job and maintain the job. And so that was really interesting to know that what type of information they were interested in. And when they talked about Facebook, they talked about the potential of it being a resource for job seekers, but they really didn't know how to use it, and they didn't think it was a very professional media as far as finding employment and using it for employment as they did LinkedIn. When they talked about other disabilities, they talked about other blind people. We had groups that had visually impaired people. There were some with traumatic brain injuries. It was a various types of people with disabilities. It just wasn't one type. But they all talked about how important talking to other people with disabilities and disabilities of the same type were to them. And these are some of the things they said about LinkedIn. I have used LinkedIn, but so far, no luck. So again, they were looking for jobs. Some of them found LinkedIn to be confusing. Some don't use it. Some of them talked about how they didn't like to read. And this is what they said about Facebook. I have a Facebook too. Facebook is so comical that it's hard to use it for employment or trying to receive gainful employment. They have it, but many times they used it for personal instead of private. Now, why is this important? Why am I focusing on these things? Well, when we were looking at this, again, we were thinking about research as how can we help them gain the skills they need to get employment. Finding a job to apply for is one thing, but obtaining the job and having the skills is important too. And then what do they have the knowledge of how to maintain that employment? That's the things that we were thinking about they needed, because they seemed to know and had a grasp of where to go to try to find available jobs. And then we were thinking about, okay, how are we going to transmit this information to them? And so that's why we were looking about where did they obtain the resources. And we thought it was really important that they used counselors, our rehab professionals, and that they used people with disabilities. So those were two things that we thought, okay, we can use those two things to transmit information with. And then we were thinking, okay, what mode do we want to use it? And we thought about social media. And we wanted an more interactive medium than LinkedIn. Because we thought maybe they would go to posts and stuff, and so we thought about Facebook. Catherine Inge, who led this part of the project, has been involved with secret groups. And secret groups, Vicki will talk to you a little bit later, you have to have an invitation and you to be in the secret group, and there's no way of outsiders getting into the group. And so we thought this would be a great way of doing it. We can have chats and conversations, interaction through Facebook. So we were really interested in what their ideas about Facebook was. Were they on Facebook? That type of thing. So we found out they were on Facebook. They hadn't thought about using it for employment. So we had some resistance, some barriers to overcome there. But we saw it as a possible mode of helping them. Another thing was personal knowledge of research and evidence-based. Now, some people thought it as, what we do is research, as, a systematic process of collecting and analyzing data. But again, it was more of seeking information out on the web, seeking information in organizations, not necessarily what we consider research. And then again, they were more interested in finding available positions to apply for. I thought it was interesting that some of the people thought that it was more that when counselors used it, it was not necessarily empirically based research, but more of a counselor's intuition of what was right, what was correct, rather than evidence-based. They thought research was informative, but they didn't see how they could apply it. And many times they had a hard time understanding it when they were asked about basic research that researchers do. And they talked about the difficulty of gaining access to research journals or information even in a more common language. They found it very difficult to get to. And even if they were able to get to it, how would they translate it for practical applications? It's very difficult for them to do. So from the focus groups, we found that participants used a variety of methods of finding employment. And they saw different options of availability of getting it. And so what we did was we developed a Facebook study, and Vicki and Caddy Inge and Jay McLaughlin were essential in developing that intervention and carrying it out. I was in the Facebook and I was just lurking. I didn't make any comments. I was observing the interactions and the comments and that type of thing, and analyze that portion. Now I'm going to move it over to Vicki.
And I guess I would say that I was also a lurker. Is that what we're called?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that like an official thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm going to leave that off of my resume. Okay, so we had two research questions that we were looking at. Is social media, specifically a secret Facebook group led by a peer mentor, effective in increasing the knowledge and use of evidence-based research on employment of individuals with traumatic brain injury? And the second question is, what is the relationship between the participant demographics and the effectiveness of the KT strategy to impact evidence-based employment knowledge and the use of individuals with traumatic brain injury? So this is where maybe we should say, so Jay was the peer mentor, and Jay kind of describes his background as, did you call it a perfect storm?
I survived a traumatic brain injury, got hit by a car about 27 years ago, and I was in a coma for about 5 days. And in the decade following that, I went back and I got my bachelor's in psychology, and then I got my master's in rehab counseling. So I was a brain injury survivor and had a MS in rehab counseling, and had also received job coach services and then become a job coach and provided job coach services.
That is kind of a perfect storm. So Jay has been a longtime friend of the Research and Training Center, where he was an employment specialist. Okay, so the intervention, the Facebook, was 3 months where there was daily interaction. So one group would get the Facebook intervention, and the other group would get an e-news, which would be given once a month for over a 3-month 3-month time period. The sample population were all individuals with traumatic brain injury. They had to be 18 years of age or older, but they had to be their own legal guardian. They had to be able to legally consent to participate in the study. And really, our recruitment went really quickly. Just all of a sudden, we didn't have people, and then all of a sudden, we had people. We have a really positive relationship with the Virginia Brain Injury Association, so they let us use their listserv, and within the listserv notification, there was a link that would take them, if they were interested, that would take them to another page where they could sign up to participate in the study. We also, when I say we, I don't mean me, I mean Jay and 2 other staff members from VCU went to clubhouses and would talk to people at clubhouses. So where did you go?
I went to 2. One to a clubhouse called the Mill House for adults with traumatic brain injury, which I was one of the founding members of years ago, but then we went back and talked to them about people coming to work, and then we went to a traumatic brain injury, what would you call them? It was a survivors meeting, a monthly survivors meeting at a local mall, and talked to both of those groups, so the brain injury clubhouse and the survivor group.
So so they would do the sort of information sharing, rah-rah about participating in the study, but then they would leave the room, and there would be another person who would be at a computer. So if somebody was interested, they would not have the pressure of Jay, who's really well known in the community, not that you would pressure people, but just his mere presence may just like put the hammer on somebody. So we would leave the room, and then they would have an opportunity to go on a computer and sign up if they were interested. Okay, so the participant information, there was 121 individuals who consented to participate. What we were looking for, we needed at least 30 and 30 for each group. 30 for the Facebook intervention, and 30 for what we ended up calling this business as usual, that would get that monthly sort of flyer information. Of the 121, 67 individuals actually completed the pre-test. We had a few interesting things that somebody had to be removed for inappropriate. I mean, I think that's some of the things that you find when you do social media, that it's sort of a relaxed kind of format, and you really have to have somebody monitoring that information. So some people were removed, 6 emails were not delivered. Our demographics, 80% identified themselves as Caucasian. Jay was really interested too in the demographics, that 59% were female and 41% are male. And if you have any information about brain injury,
It's flipped. Maybe a big flip.
so it's sort of interesting that we had such a large percentage of females to participate. Next, you can see what the education background was, and then the other information was, how often do you use Facebook? Well, those last 3 areas, like the 30%, 25, 27, so we can see like 82% use Facebook on a daily kind of basis. So we thought that was going to be very helpful. How often do you use Facebook to find information about services and supports on employment? 62% said they had never used that. So again, that's what Carolyn was saying earlier on, that we knew we had something that we had to overcome by using this particular strategy. So we ended up with 34 in the Facebook group, 33 in the listserv, and essentially what Caddy would do, Jay would have a post, so she would collect his post over a month's period of time, and then kind of take his post and format them in like a one-page kind of flyer. But essentially, it was the same content that was delivered through Facebook. It was just delivered in a one-page kind of format. They were randomly assigned to who was going to get Facebook and who was going to get listserv. Our business as usual strategy. Okay, so are people familiar with the secret Facebook confidentiality? Yeah? No? Okay. Well, so there are a lot of people on Facebook who have alias names. Well, you're not really supposed to do that. I think my daughter registered my husband as Gonzo or something, I don't know. But apparently you can't do that. So we couldn't really do that for the study. So we have this, it's the highest privacy rating that you can get with Facebook. So members knew if they registered and consented to participate in this study, while they would be in this group and they had to get an invite to participate in the group, people in the group would be able to see their name. People outside the group really would not. So that was really part of the discussion, and that became an important point to clarify with everybody, that we were clear that they understood when they consented to participate, they would understand that confidentiality, really a confidentiality issue. So Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about your post and how they kind of changed after a while? Well, I know you added pictures.
Right. Pictures. If you did one study that just a post that didn't have pictures and one with a post that did have a picture, I guarantee you the ones with the pictures, people would look at them more. I don't know. And the pictures were not really related. They were just kind of a hook to get people on the site. People kept coming back. So
Jay's a good photographer.
No, I'm not. I take a lot of pictures. That's different. So they weren't really related, but it definitely kept people on the site, and a lot of people were reading what was on it and responding to what was on it. So.
And then to kind of grab them a little more, they started doing an audio recording. It was Tuesdays with Jay. Is that like Tuesdays with Maury?
That's okay.
Well, all right. I don't know what was the back of Caddy's mind. So then they did these audio recordings. What was that? What were some of the information then?
Caddy's a great interviewer. I don't know that I'm a great interviewee, but she would ask excellent questions that I felt I could answer, or probably that she felt that I could answer succinctly, and that had strong content, and I can't come up with one right now. They're on the list.
So continually, they would share evidence-based practices in employment, and the reason that Jay is sort of the peer mentor that is a perfect storm is because he is a rehabilitation counselor. He was an employment specialist. He understands supported employment. He understands customized employment. He can talk from a counseling perspective, which...
and I've been in a coma, and I have seizure disorder as a result of my brain injury. So I can't. So I have the chops. You know, I can't. They can't just say, "Well, you know, da 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 da." Yes, I do.
Although they did say you can't da 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 da.
And so I put a picture that my attorneys took of me, and
it's awful.
Yeah, you don't want to see it up there. And so I said this was me, and because when people see it like this, I don't have credibility that some people want. If I don't have slurred speech, is that there's establish some credibility that way.
Yes, I think it did. I think it did kind of open people up to kind of move them beyond where they were to kind of accept the information that was coming across. So that was, we did one posting per day, and I will tell you that the Facebook postings should have stopped But what happens?
Well, we didn't have an exit strategy.
Wow, a lot of people don't.
You form relationships, and you're used to talking to individuals on a regular basis. They're used to talking to you. So while the postings have reduced, we're working on an exit strategy.
Because you form relationships doing this. I mean, that's how you.
That was critical to the research.
Well, it's what you do. I mean, it's you couldn't do it without it. And I'm a counselor by training and by experience, and so this is my training is to engage people. So here we are.
So well done. So you'll figure out the exit strategy. Okay, so
Empowerment.
yeah.
So this was a mixed method study, and so we collected pre and post test information, and we also did a more of a qualitative look at the posts themselves. Now, I would love to be able to show you the statistics on the quantitative pre-post knowledge tests that we did. But we've had a little change in personnel. We had someone move on to a bigger and better job, one of our computer people, and so we're a little bit understaffed in the computer area. And so our data is on a data set, and the one left has not had a chance to get the data to me to analyze. So what I'm going to present is just the qualitative data, the information from the Facebook post itself, and it's more descriptive. First, I wanted to show you about the percent of total Facebook posts. As you can see, Caddy and Jay posted very similarly. Jay a little bit more than Caddy. 31% of the posts were by Caddy, and 22% of the posts were by Caddy. Members, we call the participants members in this presentation, and they did 37% of the posts. Now, to post on this in the secret group, the post went to Caddy first, and she decided whether or not to post it or not, whether it was appropriate or not. And so there was a delay in getting the post onto Facebook. But we just felt like that was the best way to ensure that only appropriate post made it to Facebook. We wanted to know about what types of posts that were being posted. As you can see, a large percentage of them were employment posts, 32%, and then skills post was very small. Life stories were posted, and that was a lot from the members themselves would post about their life stories. Particularly in the beginning, they introduced themselves, they were welcomed, and then they would tell the story about how they acquired the traumatic brain injury. And then there was a post about relaxing inspirational post, and Jay was wonderful about posting these beautiful pictures and then talking about them and what he was experiencing and how that fit into the goals of the support group. So those are the areas in which the post concerned. JD, do you want to say anything about those areas?
Just that anxiety is always a big thing for me, and I self-medicate by walking my dogs in the woods. And it's clear from the things that anxiety was a big deal for a lot of people, and so I talked to a lot of people about strategies for anxiety reduction with benign side effect profile.
Now, this is by type of poster. So we have Caddy's posts, and then we have Jay's post, and then the member post, and then the administration post. And that was the other administrators were just the ones that got a project going, got the secret group going. So you can see that Patty posted most about employment, and then Jay posted about employment and relaxing inspirational posts. And the members talked about employment and the relaxing inspirational posts too. Not only we
have a question.
Okay, sure.
What is a joined post?
That means when they join the group.
That they describe themselves, I think.
So when they join
Okay.
the group, we
Like an
welcome them
introduction.
in,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
they would post.
Okay.
there's
Just
Just a
another-
way to separate that
Okay.
from the other.
Sorry. Thank
Because
you.
that would, yeah.
There's another question.
Yes.
What kind of post would the anxiety discussion fall under? Is that a skill?
When I'm talking about anxiety, I always go back to breathing because that's what anxious people forget to do. And,
So it's relaxing. Would you say so that would be
The
the
relaxing.
relaxing?
So it'd be the relaxing.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Now, in the group, you can see there's a little box, and it says "seen by," and it can tell you how many people have seen it. It's not likes; that's different. And so we wanted to know how many people just saw it. What we saw was that some people commented and some people won't. You'll see that in a bit. And but seen by gave us an idea about how many people were going to it and clicking on it and wanting to read the whole post. And so as you can see, it started up really high at the beginning of the project and then went down. And it went down from about a high of about 32, 33 to 25 posts. And you can see that they're very similar about what they looked at. The relaxing dipped down a little bit, but it came back up, and they all ended up at about the same data point. Total number of member comments. Now, the participants, how they commented. Again, they commented a lot at the beginning, and then it fell down. So a little over 140 posts at the beginning, down to below 60 posts at the end of this study. Now, we're concerned about that, and Patty had a chance to chat with some of the folks about this, and I read the research on using Facebook and as a support group, and what we are finding is that just because they don't comment doesn't mean they're not getting something from it. Now, to ensure that, we're going to be doing focus groups to talk to them about why they commented, why they didn't comment, and to get their subjective experience of the Facebook. And so we'll have some more information about it. So as much as we would like everyone to comment all the time, they didn't, and some people didn't care to comment. And so this is something that we're going to study further. Mean number of posts by poster. Again, Jay was the most, at the beginning, and then he sort of balanced off a bit, and then Caddy was a little bit lower again, but Jay was the one that was leading it. Caddy was his assistant in this process. And then you see that members also posted quite a bit too. It's up and down. The mean number of posts is 2.5, around there, to 1.5. Again, we're just doing the descriptive analysis now and not any variation. We do have the distribution, and I thought this was interesting to look at. As you can see, there's a number that didn't post at all, or very few made comments at all. And then we had some that commented a lot. And that's your special friend. The top one is Caddy. He was just a talker. He liked to contribute. In fact, he was interested in starting his own support group, TBI support group, which he did on Facebook. And he was a great contributor.
And if he were here and we were doing this here instead of Facebook, he's that articulate talker type anyway. So
Yeah, he would be
yeah,
joining
I
in.
strongly feel that. I don't have any data support.
So when we look at the gender differences in comments, females made more comments than the males. Not
We didn't
surprising.
tear down that stereotype.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
And we also looked at the tone of the comments. So we had mostly positive, but we had some negative comments. And when they were, they all had some comments that were negative, and then doubtful, and then uplifting. And before we go in and show the different types of posts there, do you want to say anything here, or do you want to present the quotes first?
Well, I would like to have seen this, but I don't believe in complaining. I don't think it has value, and so I've tried to keep that keep as positive a tone as I could on my end. We got a few bad ones, but
Yeah. And I think one of the Tuesdays with Jay videos was had to do with seeing things negatively and seeing things positively, and have a glass half.
that big blue positive there, I like to see that. That's the vast majority.
So to give you an example of some of the comments that we coded by the tone, I started a job last month, first one since my bike crash. It's going well for the most part. I'm still learning, but my boss, coworkers say that I'm doing extremely well. I'm less confident than they are. I forget things. I panic, and I think I'm regressing again. I have to learn to be more patient with myself and believe my boss. Not an easy task, but I'm trying. Any comment from you?
So I like to see it. So.
Negative. These are some negative comments. I needed to hear what you said, as time has been crushing me. Back to work. It's the most frightening. When someone made the comment to me about still being smart, even if I did my drop 20 percentile places in IQ, I told them to cut off 20% of their leg and get back to me, and then we could talk. So you can really see there, I mean, the fear in the work, and then the fear of what it really did impact was that amount. Doubtful. For what it's worth, I'll dress up a bit more than usual and wear a button-down shirt and tie tomorrow and have an interview with my supervisory chain of command and coworkers for a slightly better paying job, still in the same department. If I get it, I'll be great, but I think I'm not among the favorites in the organization. Oh well. And then there was a lot of uplifting. They uplifted each other. Jay and Patty uplifted, the participants, and congratulations. Hope you're feeling better today, because they would post when they were not feeling well. We had one that had one participant that had struggles with migraines, severe migraines, and really struggled with it. They talked about their family issues and how caring for an adult parent was difficult in juggling their life and trying to find a job. I'm glad to hear what your parents are going to the doctor with you. The extra eyes and ears are really helpful. I hope you can find some relief. Please let us know how your appointment goes. Again, that was a member talking to another member. And then we had informative and helpful posts that they posted. I need to schedule interviews early in the day when I'm fresh and not fatigued. The more tired I am, the worse my speech gets. I can use my writing skills to make a resume and cover letter pop. I can carefully select people as references that can speak to my abilities and skills, especially critical thinking, reaction, response, and emergency situations and patient care, pre and post TBI. So again, talking about their own, even though they were talking about their own strategy, they were also informing others. Now when we look at the comments some more, sometimes they were asking about, clarification and questions. Sometimes, again, it was positive feedback, 19% positive feedback. Sometimes it was just response to their own post. And some of it was just a response to the comment. So a variety of different things. The breakdown of total number of member-initiated posts. As you can see, most people initiated, 38% of the posts. And again, this is a distribution of the people who made posts. Again, posts are when you initiate a conversation, and the comment is when you're responding to a post. Make that clear. And again, we have the same person here initiating the post, a very special friend that started his own support group, did post more. And that he's just that type of person to want to help. Now, if we want to look at percent of employment-related comments, because that's what we're interested in, we see that comments were 35% of the comments were about employment. And then when we looked at Choosing with Jay, one of the things we thought about after initiating this project, this intervention, was maybe people aren't commenting, maybe they're not reading because it's hard for them to read. It's difficult for them to read. And so we thought, okay, let's put some videos. And so Choosing with Jay was an attempt to give them an audio and to see what's going on. Now this is just the slug for the frequency for the Tuesdays with Jay over 7 weeks. And as you can see, it increased and then it fell off a little bit, but didn't fall off much. And I haven't compared this with the text posts out of the same time period, but I will be doing that. Jay, do you want to talk any more about the Tuesday with Jay?
I'll be interested to see how that data works out. It was a totally different direction to approach people from than to record audio things about questions they were addressing, and we kept them short and to the point. And I think it was a good, just a different avenue of contact. I mean, we're trying to get to enhance group cohesion, and when you do it on Facebook, it's to add an audio component is, I hope was helpful.
So you did it for two reasons. One, maybe it's just a different, people getting it in a different format as opposed to reading, and they had this audio file. But you also wanted to work on group cohesion.
I think getting the group working together. I mean, if they're not going to work together, why have a group? I mean, it's we're all to benefit from one another's experiences.
Kathy was really concerned. She really wanted everyone to speak up, and she thought maybe this would get other people to speak up. And so she would take sort of what was going on, the tone. Sometimes it was the tone. There was one about negativity and being positive and how to see the world. But sometimes it would be a post or a comment that someone else made, and she thought, well, we need to elaborate on this, or we can provide more information. And so she would ask Jay those questions. As we have thought about in planning for other interventions, Facebook interventions, we're planning to add a focus group at the beginning, because focus groups coalesce really fast. You bond really fast in a focus group. So we're hoping to build a bond through the focus group before the Facebook intervention is provided. And we would like to do that audio throughout the process, and it's particularly for any type of interventions with traumatic, individuals with traumatic brain injury or situations in which reading text is difficult. And that's where we're at as far as the analysis of the study. We have quite a bit to go. But, in some ways it's positive. Again, getting the knowledge information and comparing it with the E's newsletter will be real important to our final conclusion. Any other questions? Yes.
Have you thought about separating males and females to possibly increase male participation in these types of groups?
Have not thought about that, but that might be a good idea too.
Just because we know, you've spoken about it as well, just the increased amount of female participation and volunteering and ability to share is so much greater in focus groups and marketing research, as well as in therapy sessions or like group therapy. So maybe there's an opportunity there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious why you focused so heavily on posts and comments versus other forms of engagement. If the part of the research question was, can we increase the knowledge? Maybe you are looking at this data and just didn't cover it except for the Tuesdays with Jay. But in other types of engagement, likes, shares. I know it was a private group, but there's still ways that you can share things that are posted, click-throughs, that kind of thing.
Yes. It's not. We haven't finished the qualitative analysis. Again, my orientation is from mixed methods, so part of my thing is I got to get to know this information, get to know the data, and so my interest is first, let's quantize the qualitative data in ways that I can, so I can get a feel of what's going out there. That also gives me a direction of where to focus my qualitative analysis. But yes, we're going to go there. We just have not gotten to that point yet, because I am just now doing the preliminary analysis of this. Yes.
I was wondering, and you maybe don't know the answer to this, but I'm curious to know if different participants who had TBI from the same type of injury gravitated towards one another versus not.
Again, that would be getting into the discourse, and I haven't done the discourse yet.
I don't know if Jay.
Gut feel for that?
The main poster had his brain injury when he was 10, and he had his 11th birthday while he was in a coma, but other than that.
But did you find people who had like similar brain injury
Causes.
That did
and
not.
they sort of kind of talk more to each other?
That didn't jump out at me.
And I guess there's no way to not deal with this. I mean, the reality of it is that people with TBI who would have challenges doing the Facebook communication, you do have a group of folks here who their skills are more capable, right, in that arena.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see what other mode might work with people who just have oral, better do orally, like YouTube,
But we had such a high percentage of people who had that used Facebook at least one time a day that participated. So
Right, so it was sort of a select group.
Yeah, and it has to be to start out when you do this,
I would
right?
even respond to it.
Yeah, but I think that would be really interesting to be able to figure out so that you can, use the aspects of Facebook that work best for certain people based upon how their injury presents itself.
Yeah, and using YouTube would be a way also. And again, I guess using focus groups or individual interviews would be the way of
Well, we talked about YouTube videos, and it's much more difficult to keep those.
Oh yeah, it's once again, it's time and people.
So, in order to make this really private, because that's a compounding issue.
yes.
So the research question was whether the group would increase knowledge of research and evidence-based practice on employment. What types of information was being shared with the group? Like, what pool of research were you going to? Like, we're going to share research about positive attitudes and working with a vocational counselor. Did you have like a set of things that you wanted imparted to this group?
Well, that's why I began with the systematic review of evidence-based practices in employment. So we really use those data. As you know, there's not a lot of evidence-based research. So we pulled a lot from the Bond Drake research, evidence-based work. And then, Jay spoke more from, so how does that translate to an employment specialist? How does that translate to a job coach? How does that translate to a rehabilitation counselor's role in that process? And getting people to kind of be more open to contact a rehabilitation counselor and not make that. So some of it was really truly evidence-based research that was being translated to them. Others was like taking that research and how does that happen to you on a daily basis and why is that important?
So again, Kathy talked about benefits and how important it is to think about benefits as far as employment. Technical assistance, that was, they talked about that. She talked about that. Supports. So she covered different aspects of using it. Again, she is very much a proponent of supportive employment and customized employment. And so she used a lot of those techniques, things that elements you would find in those types of interventions in her posts. Yes.
Going back to the research question, and has this sort of started as like a job seeker tool that was more popular and more user-friendly than LinkedIn, and looking at the posts, there were a lot of employment posts, but not a lot of skills posts that were done. So considering, and good for you for not having an exit strategy, because I think there's a value add behind having a support group of sorts. Is that sort of the plan now for this, as there is no exit strategy, that it continues to be more of a support service, or are you hoping to sort of swing it back around into providing more skills-based posts?
We haven't decided the direction of what we're going to do with the post.
I think Jay's going to be on the payroll for a while. I just haven't broken that news yet.
That's part of the exit strategy we don't have.
We were sort of tied into what we could discuss as far as the project, and we have yet to really to decide on what direction. Do we just let it die on itself? Do we close it, or do we take it to a different direction? We just haven't made that decision yet.
But I think we all kind of feel we just can't close it.
And it's not difficult to keep it going at a sort of subsistence level.
Maybe you should take it off of secret and make it more of a closed group, or maybe open it up for people within the group to invite their friends that are in the same
Hand the
group.
baton.
Yeah.
We have a difficult IRB.
I was going to say.
I don't even want to write up that
And Kathleen doesn't want to try to get it through IRB.
But that's something we can throw out to them. About, what do they want? Where do they see it going?
I mean, in any peer support situation, they have the ability to say, could you give us help on creating our own, way of doing this that's totally parallel outside that.
And they're posting. I mean, they're making their own, initiating their own posts too right now.
So your special friend.
Yeah, there's two right now. Whenever I talk to Katty about this, I always talk about what about if we were all just sitting in here in this room talking, how would it be different? Because that's the comparison group to me. But we've got people in Houston and we've got people in Florida, and so that's the good thing is we have people in Houston and Florida.
Yeah, even though that a lot of the places that Vicki talked about, where we recruited in Virginia, we ended up with people from around the country. Mm-hmm. It's not just a Virginia-based.
That Brain Injury Association it's a very broad listserv that we've really reached a lot of people. So we were really pleased that they would allow us to do that.
Yes.
So I think you kind of touched on one of my questions. So you talked earlier about how important it was to have this be a very monitored, controlled environment, and you indicated that someone would sort of vet the posts before they were put out there. So I guess one question I had when I heard that was turnaround time and sort of project management of something like that. How did you guys handle that? Was it? I mean, so what was the turnaround time on posts? And then you just mentioned that members were now able to post themselves. So have the rules changed as far as how that goes?
They post, and then it goes through, Patty vets each one before she allows it to be posted. So that continues. They're initiating
okay.
their post, and they
But
go
it's
up.
still being vetted, okay.
Right.
And Caddy does it 7 days a week.
Yes.
That's what I was wondering. So
Every day.
Yeah, I would say she works really, really hard, and I can't think of a time that she hasn't gotten it posted within 24 hours.
okay.
Now, some people were frustrated that one person in particular, that it wasn't being posted with it immediately, because they wanted the immediate gratification
Right.
of seeing it. But for the most part, they understood. They were patient.
Well, thank you all very much. That was really interesting. We've been wanting to hear more details about your Facebook study, and we've been very interested to see what kinds of information you would be finding from that. So thanks for sharing that. As I said at the beginning, this is not completed research. Both of these studies are ongoing at CEDL and at VCU, but we wanted to share with you where we are now. And we will be continuing to share information as these studies complete, probably through our e-newsletter, which you should be receiving on a quarterly basis. And then we do have some more webcasts and some more technical briefs that will be coming up that will share this information as it's finalized.